Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC 231 in our backyard. When I say our, it's me and Cody Saftic here to break down a fight card that's literally a stone throw away from here.
Like, yeah. And we don't have to talk about home cooking because there's just terrible officiating to be had all around.
Canadians have not had a good history recently. Moncton, I don't necessarily remember anything too egregious, though.
To be honest, the Ontario Commission is not bad. It's just we joke around with the BC Commission and out east a little bit and out west a little bit in places such as, the Edmonton card. However, knock on wood, because we just need everything to go accordingly. As we say, probably the last couple of shows, we've been on a heater lately, Paul. Last weekend was no different. 2 cards and exceptionally well. I know you and I watched some of them together. And let's keep the good times going in our own backyard. Literally a stone throw away. Valentina Shevchenko spending time at that TKMT gym, literally 20 minutes down the road. I had to pass it on the way here.
That's where
this is quite honestly downtown is where we're situated.
That's where
we're a 10-minute walk from the Scotiabank Arena, formerly the Air Canada Center, where the fights will be.
That's where Main Event Kent is an instructor.
Is he an instructor there?
Yes.
I knew he was there, but I wasn't sure if he was uptown.
So I got the inside
They got an
track.
uptown and a downtown location. I wasn't sure which one he was at.
He's at that one. And apparently she looks great. But, like, what do you expect?
Compared to other people,
of
other recreational
Of course, exactly. So
I
I don't really have the inside track all that much, but she is training at his gym right now, getting ready for this card. Before we get to any of that, though, we have some giveaways. 2 cards last week, so 2 winners. Number 1 was D Cribbs. That's DCRIBBZ, all caps, like your gumption. You will be getting $20 DK dollars, or may already have DK dollars. I'm not sure, but it's coming your way. And Balou, BALOU 22. Congratulations, you also won for last week's card. So good on both of you. This week, our giveaway, number 1, in the comment section. Leave your DK handle, give the show a like, and say who is the worst Canadian fighter in UFC history. They don't have to be on this card. Frankly, I think if you go off of this card, you're being a little bit egregious. This has been a pretty good card all around.
And this is a tough one because on one hand you think, do I put down Mitch Clark? But it's like, oh, he does got that sneaky win. Do I put down Gary Goodridge? No, legend. Can't put down Gary Goodridge. Do I put down Sheldon Westcott? More than likely I put down Sheldon Westcott. But the choice is yours, people.
Yep, the world is your oyster. Just, like the show, your DK handle, who is the worst Canadian UFC fighter of all time. So let's, before we get to any of that, of course, just want to let everyone know that the odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Main event. Featherweight Championship of the World. Max Bless Holloway taking on a Brian T. City or Toronto City Ortega. Max Holloway is 8,300 on DraftKings. It's a straight pick'em. Brian Ortega is $7,900. This is a hell of a fight. Before we get to anything else, like 2 guys in their prime, getting better every single fight. Max may have already hit his ceiling right now. I'm not sure. But he's been a guy improving all along the way. Brian Ortega kind of keeps getting better every single time we see him. He's undefeated, 14-0. Max Holloway's on an 11-fight winning streak. Literally the best fight you can make at 145 pounds, and I'm sure everybody is super, super excited for this. There's been a lot of talk about Max Holloway and his health, and obviously he had to pull out at UFC 226, which is back in the summer. He had that interview with Michael Bisping. And he wasn't looking good. There was something obviously wrong with him. He hasn't really been forthcoming about what is wrong with him. He's been saying that he doesn't know what's wrong with him.
That's what I keep hearing.
Is this part of a game that he's playing, though? Like, I know that he had the problems, right? But it's just like, this may be crazy and people are going to hate me for saying this, but like, this could be a little bit of a game of mental warfare. What does he have to gain by telling Brian Ortega exactly, don't worry, man, everything's cool. You can punch me as hard as you want. He knows that Brian Ortega is pretty compassionate guy, nice guy, really like a down-to-earth, awesome dude. Like there's nothing bad to say about him. But like that may work against Brian Ortega to a degree. He's already been in these press conferences talking about, oh, I'm worried about, hurting him. I wouldn't want to set anything off. All good, compassionate, great things of being a human being, for sure. When you're getting locked into a cage to fight with somebody, though, is there going to be like a little aversion to, maybe pulling a punch a little bit that more than you normally would in most situations?
Yeah, see, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think, let's say Jimmy Manuwa was a real compassionate dude, and Thiago Santos played that exact same strategy, and Jimmy was like, dude, I like this guy. This guy looks like he's damaged goods. Maybe I'm not going to pull the trigger. That one moment of lapse in judgment and, just giving him that little bit of respect gets you caught, gets you knocked out. But in this case, Holloway just doesn't have the punching power. He is volume puncher, but doesn't have the pure punching power to knock Brian Ortega out with one strike. So what's Ortega going to do? Go in there and be like, I like Max. I don't want to hurt this guy. And then get pieced up with a 6-piece combo.
Subconsciously.
Take all punches and then be like, I still don't want to hit this guy.
Fair.
No. The fight starts. Everything is lost.
Everything else goes out the window.
Yeah, it's wartime, and I don't think he's gonna. And you know what? All those things that you just mentioned, which is a lot of what everybody's talking to. This is Max Holloway. This is perhaps the greatest featherweight of our time. And if you're a McGregor guy, then Max Holloway is one of the greatest featherweights. Certainly a very good champion, as you mentioned at the top of the show. This is a guy that's in the prime of his career. But there's that big what if. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. Whereas Brian Ortega, there's less unknowns. If we know 100% that Holloway's okay, he's safe, he's not concussed.
He passed all of his doctor's tests. They're willing to let him fight here. We're in the Ontario Commission. You've worked with the Ontario Commission a bunch. If there was actual real questions about his health, do you think they would let this go through? You've dealt with them on like way more minor things before, and they didn't let things go through.
Yeah, that's fair. So Max Holloway arrives in Toronto, and he steps on a scale, and he weighs 162 pounds. And they test him, and they say, geez, Max Holloway, you got your wits about you. You're pretty good. And then let's say they test him again midweek, and he's 155 pounds. They're like, wow, Max Holloway's pretty good. But on fight day, when he's on weigh-in day, the day before the fight, when he's got to crunch down to make that 145, that's when it's going to take it out of him. And that's when we don't know that he would pass all these neurological exams. Put all that aside. Let's just go back to the Khabib fight. He gets called in short notice to fight Khabib. He's fighting at 155, so even though it is short notice, he should be able to make 55. He does not make 55, and he gets extremely ill cutting weight on short notice for 55. Fast forward, they get him back in there, and they say, okay, forget 55 and forget short notice. We'll give you a full training camp to get ready to make 45. And now in making 45, that extra 10 pounds, the guy just got sick and bailed out of a fight at 55. Again, yes, short notice. But now at 45, cutting that extra weight, he gets ill again. And this time, he passed all of his tests, Paul. The commission spoke to him and were safely going to put this man in a ring. Michael fucking Bisping interviews him in a routine media checkout, and he points the red flag that alerts it. Yes, the Ontario Commission might see nothing wrong with him, but when he actually gets in there, is he going to be compromised? And if he is going to be compromised, Brian Ortega is a very bad guy to be compromised in there with, because he can push a tremendous pace for 25 minutes. He's dangerous both striking and on the ground. And whereas Holloway can push a pace for 25 minutes too, I am not worried about Holloway gassing out and Ortega, putting the gas pedal on him. What I'm saying is in 25 minutes of trepid combat, he's going to get hurt, he's going to dehydrate, and if he's already in a compromised state, that's a big no-no. So the fight's probably a pass, but I'm going to feel out Ortega here. I got Holloway.
I'm leaning Holloway here.
If everything is right in the world, I got Holloway. But it's not
Max
right
gets
in the world.
better.
There's something going on here, and I've got Brian.
Max gets better and better and better as the fight goes on.
As does Brian Ortega.
Brian Ortega, we have seen some real chinks in the armor, though. Like again,
He's hittable.
He's hittable.
But he's got a great chin.
And against Clay Guida, I know he's improved a lot.
Ago.
The guy has improved a lot since then. But like this, it was super close, and then he had to find that finish in round 3. Otherwise, he's probably not in this situation right now if he doesn't win that fight. We go to Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson was tagging him up for the first 4 minutes and 50 seconds of that fight. And then Brian Ortega grabbed the neck, and then Cub was able to survive. They get to round 2, and Brian Ortega was able to find the neck again. Like, the guy is so dangerous that fading him in any situation is very, very difficult, because at any given time, whether it's round 1, round 5, I agree with you.
Dangerous.
He has that finishing ability, so dynamic in his jiu-jitsu and frankly his striking. Knocking out Frankie Edgar well, first person to ever knock out Frankie Edgar. Like that's
okay. So
that we're adding extra wrinkles to his game,
right?
Too.
And so now think about that. Everybody keeps talking about the fact that, geez, you know what? He was down 2 rounds against Thiago Tavares, and he was down 2 rounds against Clay Guida, and he was down 2 rounds against Renato Moicano. And these third rounds, he's fresh as a daisy, and he's pushing that pace, and he catches those guys. But where was that in the Frankie Edgar fight? In the Frankie Edgar fight, it showed that he could still knock you in the first round as well. And as you mentioned, Frankie's a guy that has a cast iron chin. Maybe he's getting a little long in the tooth, but had previously never been knocked out. And it's not just that Ortega knocks him out. And it's not just that Ortega knocks him out in the first round like that. It's the fact that it's that sneaky little elbow sets up the whole thing. And to think that he's going to go out there and exchange punches with Max Holloway, punches and kicks, and knock out Max Holloway is pretty crazy to think. However, it's those dirty in transition areas. It's those clinches up against the cage. It's going to be all of that in which those dirty little sneaky elbows are going to play a factor, and stuff like that could very well rock Max Holloway. As much as Brian Ortega is hittable, and no doubt he is hittable, Max Holloway is hittable too. Not because the striking defense is not good, but because he gets emotional in fights, and he allows himself to get dragged into these firefights. As far as the striking battle goes, Max Holloway's got the advantage. As far as the wrestling advantage goes, I don't think anybody got it. I don't think Ortega can get Holloway to the ground purely just based on shooting and takedown.
But he showed time and time again he doesn't necessarily have to get you to the ground. He just finds...
But it's like, he's almost like Pedro Munoz.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your neck was hung out here for 2 seconds. I'll just snag up onto it. And there's where he's dangerous, because this guy's not only a black belt, he's not only a high-level black belt, he's a world champion. I could just do jiu-jitsu instead of fighting whatsoever and still beat guys at the highest level. Whereas Max Holloway is a good purple belt, not a good competitive gi jiu-jitsu purple belt, but at the same time, he's a purple belt from Hawaii versus a California black belt of the highest lineage. So if the fight does hit the ground, yeah, it's advantage Ortega all day. And if Holloway's, fighting a good fight and he wins the first round, he wins the second round, he wins the third round, whatever the case may be, close rounds, yeah, maybe it just takes that 1 second. Maybe if he's rocked for a second, he gives up the neck. Maybe and we see in a lot of Holloway's fights, he mixes up the wrestling. He's got a good ground game. He beats a lot of these guys in his division on the ground. He's on Jose Aldo, laying it to him. If he tries to take Ortega down, you just don't know.
I think he's gonna
for $7,900 on Brian Ortega.
I think
who is just a finishing machine, and at the same time,
any way that you look at it, whoever to win the big GPPs, you're gonna need the winner of this fight.
I'd stack in cash.
You could, or you could stack the next fight.
Fair enough.
I think from a betting perspective, like it's a pick 'em. It's super hard. I'm not gonna fault anybody for picking on either side of this one. I'm not really buying into all the WebMDs that I'm seeing out on Twitter that, Holloway looks like he's,
I don't care. Yeah,
I don't know. Like, he was never a wordsmith before. I think he's pretty much the same guy. Hopefully he's all good. I think he is all good, but we'll find out Saturday night. Either way, yeah, it's a fight you're gonna have to go on to. If you're gonna win,
gun to your head, and I'm taking Ortega.
Gun to my head.
What it is? Okay.
All right. Next fight, the one I said that you could really stack. You have Valentina Shevchenko taking on Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Valentina is 9400 on DraftKings, minus 350 favorite. Joanna is 6800 and plus 290. Joanna's your girl, so take it away, Code.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a super big coward here, but I feel like the time to jump off the bandwagon is now. And I'm not saying that because I'm so confident that Valentina beats her, but confident enough that I can't in good conscience give out the advice that you should bet Joanna Jedrzejczyk. A great champion, no doubt. Does she have a path to victory here? Yeah, I suppose she really does. But this is a prime example of why there's weight classes in MMA. Is that back in the day, Royce Gracie could beat a guy that was 250 pounds because the guy didn't know what the hell he was doing. Nowadays, you take the best welterweight in the world, and he's, Colby Covington, as good of a wrestler, Kamaru Usman, whatever, Tyron Woodley, they're probably not beating Robert Whittaker. And likewise, Robert Whittaker is not jumping up and beating John Jones. And John Jones, I know the whole Cormier actually did jump up.
John Jones jumps up and beats everybody. But
yeah, because he's a great talent. Yeah, I guess those are the anomalies. At heavyweight, kind of anybody can have their foot in there. But same thing with pretty much every division. It's real hard to just jump up and beat somebody. And I feel like Joanna, for as good as she is, she's giving up the size to Valentina, and this fight could very well come down to size. Yeah, we know that Valentina's defeated her 3 times in Muay Thai, and that doesn't really matter because it was 10 years ago. But to hear it from Joanna, she was so much more experienced than me. Well, that's still going to carry over because she's just been doing it longer than you.
It's not like she just stopped all of a sudden.
No, exactly. Joanna's a 5-time Muay Thai champion, and Valentina's like a 17-time Muay Thai champion. And then when you transition over to MMA, Joanna made a mark of, I'm the best striker in the division, and I've learned to stuff these takedowns. But then when she went up against Rose, it was like, this girl thinks she can strike with me. And then flash knockout. The second time around, I got it 2-2 going into the 5th. And She didn't have that championship gear that we all grown to love about her. Because, yeah, she looked like she had that extra gear when she was teeing off on people late in fights, but she would pretty much had won all those rounds leading up to teeing off on those opponents. Whereas this is a fight where it's like you really need to dig deep.
Yep.
And I thought Rose won that fight based on the 5th round where Rose did enough to get the victory. With Joanna now, she's going up to 125, and she's given up a little bit of size. She's now taking on somebody who theoretically is an even better striker than Rose Namajunas, is going to be able to stuff these takedowns. If your plan is to take her down, I think she'll be able to stuff everything you've got for her, and maybe she even tries to sprinkle in a little bit of the takedown herself. The one thing I'm going to worry, because, yeah, I'm the biggest Joanna supporter. I've never betted against Joanna. Going back to her Cage Warriors fight with Rosie Sexton, she's my girl. How can she win this fight? Well, Valentina gets a little gun-shy sometimes. I mean, yeah, she wakes up and she goes for it, but sometimes she gets a little defensive. She's a counterpuncher by nature, so sometimes she'll just wait for you to come at her. And Joanna Jedrzejczyk's more of a volume puncher. If she goes out there and she just tries to be a little bit faster than Valentina, tries to, double her up, 2-3 shots for every one that Valentina's landing, maybe she just outworks her. But at some point or another, this is going to be a gunfight, and I've got the bullet in that gunfight. So give me Valentina Shevchenko. I think she gets the job done. I think it's probably a decision because even though she's a vaunted striker, the punching power is not really there. I think the fight's mostly stand up, and I don't stack it as opposed to the main event. The only reason I say that is for me, it's almost a mentality thing. In the main event, Max Holloway's chomping at the bit. He wants Brian. And Brian's chomping at the bit. He wants a piece of Max. They're going to go at it. There could be some ground transitions. There could be lots of flurries. There could be lots of doesn't matter. It should be a hectic fight. Both guys want it. Both guys push a pace. Whereas you look at this, against other opponents, they score big. They do that. But in this particular matchup, if you're Joanna, I've lost this girl 3 times. I know she's got power. I know she's got a good striker. So I'm not so anxious to go and land those 100 significant strikes I do in other people, because now I got to be smart about it. This girl's not Jessica Penne. This girl's not Valerie Letourneau. This girl's not Carla Esparza. This girl knows how to strike. And I've already lost her 3 times in Muay Thai. I'm going to take my time. So you should see a different version of Joanna. And Valentina, well, she's a counterpuncher. She's going to let Joanna dictate the pace and just try to land the cleaner blows, which I think she'll be able to do. She should be able to get a decision victory.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would just rather stack the main event. That's all I'm saying. You could stack this, I guess, but I just like the main event a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shevchenko goes to the grappling in this spot.
Yeah, she might. But could
she has shown.
Can she take her down?
She's super well rounded. We've seen her skills in all facets of the game. Joanna's pretty one-dimensional. She's a volume puncher.
Yep.
And I think if Valentina can get to the ground, that's the big if, is, Joanna has gotten really good at turning down takedowns. Her takedown defense has been really good. Like, look at all the GADELHA fights and so on and so forth. But if Valentina can get her down there, I think she has a big advantage here.
No doubt. And Valentina...
She has the strength. She has the size.
Yeah. As much as I don't necessarily think she can go out there and just take Joanna down, she took, in the same breath, she took down Amanda Nunes, who's 135 pounds, twice the size of Joanna Jedrzejczyk.
Juliana Pena.
She was the one getting taken down, yeah. She's got a good grappling game, and maybe she outgrapples her. And it's funny because you hear a lot of the talk coming out of ATT where they're like, we know how to beat her because we've defeated Valentina twice already with Amanda Nunes. We know how to beat her.
That was dicey, and that girl's fighting at 145 pounds for the title now.
Unless your game plan for Joanna somehow revolves around her growing 3 inches and slapping on 25 pounds. I don't really know how the game plan is the same here. Valentina could have been the champ at 35. That second fight with Amanda Nunes, extremely close. And now she's dropping down. She's a larger athlete who's at the highest point of her game, dropping down to 125. Whereas there's question marks with Joanna. She did not look good in either Rose fight. In fact, she didn't look good in any of her fights since dropping the title. She's been hurt in the past. She's been dropped by lots of opponents. And we just don't really know. So... yeah, sadly enough, I got to bail on Joanna, at least temporarily, for this fight. One thing that does got me somewhat thinking, though, whereas you and I talk about Tatiana Suarez and what she might be able to do for the division. I know she's at 115. Maybe she could go to 125. Valentina, I used to think it was really cool, her whole little, switching camps around, going to different places. Surely that's got to blow up in her face at some point. She's training out in the woods of Maine with nobody outside of her sister, who's literally her only training partner. That'd get you so far. She's the best. She really is. And she can beat these girls. But one's got to wonder if she hasn't capped out her potential. If we're not going to, this is the Valentina that we're going to see. Her takedown defense is not great. A good, strong, hard-nosed wrestler eventually take her down. The problem is the wrestlers of the division are non-existent because the division is largely non-existent. And at 135, again, there's not just really any powerhouse wrestlers, but I'm not overly impressed. Joanna at ATT, with that cast of crew around her, I would be a lot more confident in Joanna if it wasn't for the fact that I honestly do think size is going to play a huge factor here, and Joanna is not going to fully commit to her strikes and just ultimately drop a decision. So give me Valentina.
We have Gunnar Nelson taking on Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Gunnar Nelson, 8,400 on DraftKings, -130 favorite. Cowboy Oliveira is 7,800 and +110. How do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, it's crazy what the internet can do, because as far as like just looking at something on paper goes, it's hard to really get behind Gunnar these days. We all knew that Gunnar, at the peak of his hype, always a McGregor training partner at a SBG, his ground game, look what he did to Jeff Monson at the ADCC trials. This guy's black belt in jiu-jitsu in like 3.5 years. He's a wonder. Oh, he's got a karate style and everything. And it just seems like a lot of that luster's been lost, because guys that are hard-nosed, they generally get to one Gunnar Nelson. And now he takes a year off. He had a fight lined up. He gets hurt. He's on the sidelines.
His eyes were probably dug out by the Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, and after getting his eyes blasted, I think he pulled out of a fight like 6 months later, and now he's coming back now a year later. Always an undersized 55 or 170. We've always wanted to see him at 55 because he's one of these guys that notoriously talks about does not cut any weight. And the problem there is that you can get through a lot of opponents just based on skill and talent. But just guys like Rick Story, who really aren't all that skilled but are tough and rugged, they got size on you, dude. They beat you up. Sandro Ponzinibbio, yeah, it was a dirty tactic. But it was just the fact that he was like, I'm bigger and stronger than this guy. I'm just going to be aggressive and get after him and try to stop him early. And ultimately, it was a foul that led to it. But you know what I mean? Like, just getting in this guy's face and making it a fight seems to be the way to defeat him. Now you got him on a year off on the sideline, coming back. Big, strong guy like Alex Oliveira is going to give him problems. But that picture of him on the internet, like of his current physical condition, he's so jacked that he's gonna beat Alex Oliveira by virtue of Alex Oliveira really can't fight a hard 3 rounds, and at some point he'll tire out, and Gunnar Nelson will end up on top of him and sub him. Cowboy Oliveira is fun, man. Fun. But there's a lot of holes in his game.
Yeah, well, like we watched when he took on the other Cowboy, the real Cowboy, who should have been able to like stop him from referring to himself as Cowboy Oliveira.
Yeah, I thought it was a cowboy.
That was a cowboy off. Yeah, like
I agree.
a loser loses the name type of fight. Donald Cerrone was able to take him down once he got him to the ground. Now, Donald Cerrone probably has better wrestling than anybody coming out of SPG Ireland. Let's face that. But yeah, being able to take him down once he got him down there, it was just academic. He was able to find the submission super easily. Gunnar Nelson gets him into that position, and it's game over.
Well, yeah, I mean, just look at, and that's
plus
right
he's got the karate, he's got the the distance striking.
He's elusive.
He's a very technical type of guy. The only thing he's got to really worry about is just getting muscled around.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Because like I said, where Nelson has struggled against big, strong, rugged guys. And if Oliveira just simply pins him up against the cage, doesn't give him much room to work with, he's not able to get into that fancy karate stance, he's not able to get him to the ground, then he's going to get roughed up and drop a decision here. But I have a feeling that flip side to Nelson struggling with those big, strong, rugged guys, which Oliveira struggles with finesse guys. And right from the beginning of his career, the Gilbert Burns fight, he's rugged, he's tough, he works him up, quality black belt, subs him like nothing.
Yep.
Donald Cerrone, black belt, not even a quality black belt, but a black belt, subs him like nothing. But it's interesting seeing his other wins. Will Brooks is dominating him 2 rounds. He's up 2 rounds, and then breaks a rib. He pulls through in that one. But Tim Means, take him to the ground and rough him up. He does that. Ryan LaFleur, damaged goods. Loses the first round to LaFleur. Take him down, rough him up. Carlos Condit, the guy's got no really questionable ground game and
Take him down,
rough him up. Cardo Pedersoli, his last fight out, was like, buddy, that was the T-ball for you. You're going to kill this guy. And the one that he struggled in that mix was Yancy Medeiros, who's tough, can take a punch, has a good ground game, and can go 3 rounds. And he gassed so hard in that fight. These other guys, Means and Carlos Condit and them, he's ragdolling them all on the ground. There's nothing there. Whereas Nelson can maybe... Remember Nelson versus Zach Cummings? In the first round, it's like, damn, Zach Cummings is big and rugged and tough. But in the second round, it's like, oh, dude, snap down, Nelson takes his back, Nelson subs him. It's just like, it's what Gunnar's capable of doing. The year off makes me question things a little bit, but he's only 30 years old. He's theoretically in the prime of his career. He looks in the best shape he's ever been in. And obviously there's a lot of attention on the SPG gym. There's no doubt he's probably got the tools around him to succeed at the highest level. This is the type of fight that he does match up well with his opponent. And for $8,400, Gunnar Nelson can go out there and he can style on him. He can get him down. He can train multiple points from transitions on the ground and eventually get that submission. So I'd be willing to take a poke on Gunnar Nelson. Am I the most faithful Gunnar Nelson backer at this point? Again, no, because I feel like as far as busted prospects go, he's not a prospect anymore. And maybe he wasn't quite as he didn't achieve the level that we thought he might. But there's no doubt that this is a quality guy coming off a year of absence. Some guys shine. Some guys come back and they were better than before. If he comes back even a little bit better than before, he can win this fight. $8,400, good price. $130, good price.
We have Hakeem Dawodu taking on Kyle Bochniak. Hakeem Dawodu is 8,600 in DraftKings, a minus 165 favorite. Bochniak is 7,600 and plus 145. Dawodu, I told myself after that last fight, I can't roster this guy anymore on DraftKings lineups. I don't see the power. He's a super technical striker, pretty low output type of striker. I don't really see the power. Bochniak has, for all of his faults, the guy's super tough.
So tough.
So I see Bochniak trying to close the distance, trying to get him down, failing on that. I see Dawodu winning a relatively close decision here. But this is a fight I am staying away from exclusively on DraftKings. Like, you stay away completely. I'm not sure what Dawodu by decision is. That would probably be my preferred play if the price is right. I don't have it in front of me on my little sheet here, but that's how I kind of see it. I see like a 30-27 or 29-28 technical striking affair where he stops a couple takedowns, doesn't let it become a brawl, which is what Bochniak is going to want. And he wins a decision, but I don't see that. Like, that fight against Austin Arnett is just like, he landed about as clean of strikes as he possibly could in that spot. And he's just like, this guy's not a DraftKings kind of guy that you should be targeting. So I'm going to be staying away from this fight completely on DraftKings, that's for sure.
Yeah, me and Hakeem is not the biggest pure power puncher. And what he landed on Austin Arnett are just hellacious shots, but Austin Arnett's got good chin. And the thing there is that Kyle Bochniak's got better chin. Because Kyle Bochniak got teed on by Zabit and pretty much was unfazed. If that was the jungle, this fight might still be going on because Bochniak didn't seem like he was going anywhere, buddy. Not going anywhere. This is an interesting case for me because with Hakeem Dawodu, here's another guy that I've really rode the bandwagon. And whereas Joanna, I'm getting off the bandwagon and I'm just going to cross the street over there. But what? That wasn't me that got off that bandwagon. That guy must look like me. In this case, I'm getting off the bandwagon, but I'm going to hang out right next to it just in case Hakeem can tap into some of this potential that he surely has. He lives up to the name. He's Mean Hakeem. He's a bad dude. As far as Muay Thai goes, he's probably got some of the best credentials. I mean, yeah, it's Canadian Muay Thai, but he traveled internationally. He fought at a very high level. He's a good striker. As far as his MMA career goes, he's really gone a long way of just keeping the fight standing, working on his ground game, working on his takedown defense, and just if you can keep this fight standing, then he's got the power, he's got the gifts, he's got everything. He's got cardio, he's got athleticism. He should be the man. I backed him so heavily in his fight with Danny Henry, his UFC debut, because quite frankly, like, I know what Hakeem Dawodu can do. And against some Scottish Muay Thai guy, he's gonna absolutely kill this guy. He gets shock rocked and dropped. Like, he's stunned right from the get-go, ends up getting in this guillotine choke, puts him out. It's like, oh my God. Following that with Austin Arnett almost felt like a gift because Austin Arnett at the time is 0-2 in the UFC. Hasn't really shown much. Scrappy kid, tough kid. Hasn't really shown much. Actually, he's 1-0 in the UFC and he's lost the contender fight. But this is surely, hey, we paid some decent money for Hakeem because we stole him from World Series of Fighting. He's a big name prospect. People in Canada seem to really like this guy. Let's build him back up. Beats Austin Arnett, but again, not that pretty. So now taking on Bochniak, who's a higher level than perhaps both of those guys. Maybe not Danny Henry. I guess he's 2-0 in the UFC and it's looked okay. But again, they're not doing him a favor here. They're not giving him a gift. They're giving him Kyle Bochniak, who, if we know of anything, he's tough and he's rugged. He's going to come after Hakeem, and that makes it interesting. Can Hakeem land the cleaner of shots in what's probably going to be a striking battle? I don't see Bochniak trying to get to the ground, and I don't think he takes Hakeem down. Again, I don't see Hakeem trying to take down Bochniak down. So we've got two strikers. Should be lowly like small striking numbers. So I agree with you. I'm going to pass as far as DraftKings go. 8,600 in Hakeem. Even if he bats you a nice 30-27, he shouldn't land more than 50, maybe 60 significant strikes. I'm not playing that. As far as Bochniak goes, $7,600. He can pull off the upset because we have seen Hakeem now get rocked. We've seen him get submitted, and we've seen that maybe if he wants a pretty fight and someone goes out there and really pushes a pace on him, then Bochniak's tough like that. Bochniak got epically screwed in Canada against Enrique Barzola. But there was just another case of Bochniak going forward all the time. You know, like he's tough and he's rugged, and it just depends what the judges are looking at. I agree with you. I think the cage side judges are going to hear the roar for Hakeem. They're going to know he's the hometown guy, and the exchanges are going to be close enough that it's like, what did I like better? Ever so slightly, 2-1 for Hakeem, 29-28.
For the cleaner strikes.
Yeah, but at minus 165, I'm just gonna have just the littlest sprinkle of action. Nothing huge. As far as DraftKings, I would have to pass. The official pick is Hakeem DAWODU, but I don't love it. He's got to show something like he did back in the day. This guy is dangerous. He just hasn't really lived up, hasn't lived up to expectations through 2 fights in the UFC. But he's young. He should be making improvements. So let's roll with him one more time.
Thiago Santos takes on Jimmy MANUWA in the light heavyweight division. Santos, 8,800 DraftKings, minus 190 favorite. Jimmy MANUWA, 7,400 plus 165. The only thing I can guarantee about this fight is violence. This is called a This is a curtain jerker if I've ever seen one. It's a Thiago Santos fight.
I know.
What happens in Thiago Santos fights?
Yeah. It won't be a
violence.
It won't be a boring.
Somebody's getting knocked out. I would be very surprised if it goes the 3 round. That would be a massive. We're gonna be in the arena. Like that would be a massive buzzkill. I'll tell you that much. What can you really say? Like Santos, we know he's dangerous. He's got some serious power, but he also has somewhat of a questionable chin, and somewhat may even be being too nice, to be perfectly honest. Gegard was able to rock him. David Branch was able to rock him. It's like if you land the right strike on this guy. He's not above going down. Like he's not the most durable guy in the division, that's for sure. Jimmy MANUWA, he's shown his own problems with durability over the years. Volkan stretchered him out basically. Most of his other losses have been like that. Jan wasn't able to close out the show, but
Jan never closes out the show.
No, but Jan never exactly
unless he submits you.
Somebody like this is another fight you're gonna have to probably target on DraftKings. Somebody's getting knocked out, and it's really hard to take a certain side here. I'm gonna, I guess, lean towards Santos just in terms of like the general aggression and whatnot. But if MANUWA lands a straight right down the pipe and knocks him out, I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest either. Like this is going to be an exciting fight. This is a fight that doesn't go to decision. This is the type of fight that makes or breaks your DraftKings day. It's depending on how you feel. But I lean towards Santos, but I'm not going to be surprised by MANUWA, as they said.
Well, I think you nailed it pretty much. You got 2 power punchers, and both of them could be argued that they could be perhaps chinny. But it's not even so much that they're chinny in that they're both big physical dudes that fight big physical dudes, and sometimes the shot gets through, and it hurts you. They're both offensive strikers, not particularly defensive strikers, and that's going to cost you from time to time. With Thiago Santos, though, this is his game. This is what the guy does. He is undeterred from that. The few times that he does lose, where it's like, oh man, maybe I should change up the way I fight. It's like, no, he really doesn't. The fight with Kevin Holland, that made me think, oh dude, this guy's cardio is really not all that good. He gassed against Kevin Holland. He was relying on his takedowns against Kevin Holland. He doesn't have a great ground game. I mean, he's heavy on top. He's got heavy top pressure, but he didn't look all that good. And then to come back from that against Eric Anderson, just eat this guy up from pillar to post, it's like, damn, this guy just brings the heat. If you're able to handle the heat, then you'll beat him. Gegard Mousasi, Dave Branch, to a lesser extent, savvy veteran. Those guys, they'll find a way to win. I don't know that Jimmy MANUWA is going to be able to handle that heat. I'm going to call it here. Everyone will agree if he loses, but maybe he's got one hurrah left in him. But Jimmy MANUWA might be shot. I think it might be all be done for old Jimmy MANUWA. Jimmy MANUWA actually never was all that great. He signed to the UFC at 34 years old, and he had smashed schlubs on the regional scene. But his UFC career is a lot of smashing fellow schlubs. He looks very dynamic in beating guys. Guys like Corey Anderson, that's a big win, especially in retrospect. Big win. Corey Anderson really can't take a shot either, especially then when he had no idea what striking was and engaged his opponents on the feet for longer than 1 minute was enough for him to get caught and knocked out. They rerun that fight back right now. Not going to happen. But with Jimmy MANUWA, he's lived by the sword, died by the sword. And it's starting to get to him. With when he fought Anthony Johnson, you can make an excuse there. Anthony Johnson is one of the biggest power punchers that's ever put on a set of gloves and stepped into a cage. He took the fight on short notice, and unfortunately, he got caught early in the second round with Johnson. But it's a fight with Volkan Oezdemir. He's the favorite. Nobody really knows who Volkan is. He walks in, he gets clipped, he gets hurt. a couple small follow-up strikes from the clinch. He topples over 22 seconds.
Yep.
Then he takes a little bit of time off. Now you got to realize at this point, he's like 37 years old. Just got knocked out bad against Volkan. Has been knocked out twice in pretty gruesome fashion in the last couple of years. Where's he at 37? The guy's very explosive. He's very dynamic. He's a fast twitch athlete. Cardio is terrible, but he goes out there and he blows guys out really quickly. But now at 37, he's a little bit slower. He's a little bit susceptible to that counter strike. His chin's not all that great. And unfortunately, he can't go out there and be the alpha male anymore and dominate these guys. And with Jan Blachowicz, there's the thing here. He had already fought Jan Blachowicz. He already defeated Jan Blachowicz. He just backed him up the whole time, landed the better strikes, and got the victory. This time against Jan Blachowicz, he's coming off that knockout loss to Volkan Oezdemir. So Paul, he doesn't pull the trigger. He just stares at Jan Blachowicz the whole time. He does not want to engage him. And so to me, there's a guy that knows deep down, I can't take these punches anymore. And my entire game plan has revolved around marching guys straight backwards and knocking them out. And so now when he goes out there with Santos, on paper it looks like two rocks colliding, two unmovable objects. But it's one guy that used to be that's taking a step backwards. And now that he's the guy that's taking the step backwards, which is something he's not used to, and Santos is going to become a force, I just don't see him standing up to the punches. Could he land something? Yeah, dude. It's Thiago Santos, who has a lot of holes in his striking game, leaves the opportunity there. And Jimmy Manuwa was a big, strong dude with some power. Also, Jimmy Manuwa was the natural 205er. Santos, perhaps huge at middleweight.
He was a massive
huge at middleweight. Not the biggest 205 in the world. But yeah, there's a reason why he's almost a 2-1 favorite, because if this fight takes place multiple times, he's going to win more often than not. So I got Santos, but if you're looking for dog play, especially on DK, $7,400 on Manuwa. If you're playing a GPP, you save your money right there, and he lands that shot.
His ceiling is his ceiling is 100 points, right? Like
for $7,400.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to land that shot, and if he is a shot fighter, then he'll get knocked
You have
out
to be
here,
willing
and
to.
you'll never see him again. He'll lose here, and you might never see him again.
You have to be willing to have a dead lineup. Basically,
yeah,
you have to be willing to gamble on this one if you want to play Manuwa. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Santos knocks him out. Next up, we've got Claudia Gadelha taking on Nina Ansaroff. Claudia is 9,300 on DraftKings, minus 335 favorite. Ansaroff is 6,900 and plus 275. I have no reason to break down this fight because we have the Ansaroff Whisperer right over here.
Ansaroff Whisperer.
Ansaroff.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's been a good streak of getting Ansaroff fights wrong because they're always like close to pick-ems. Nobody really knows which way they're going, and we've had a good run. Gonna have to go against her here. Claudia has looked abysmal her last couple of fights. Yes, against very stiff competition. Well, Carla Esparza is not the stiffest of competition, but she's looked really bad, dude. Like, she's one of those girls that was at Nova União and thrived under the setting of this gym is ferocious and people can't stand up to this power and this aggression. But once the game evolved and all those fighters, that style stopped working, she's had some problems. Now she moves to Jackson Winklejohn. Doesn't look that good. Now she's moving around to a couple different gyms here and there. And I don't know. There's something missing with Claudia Gadelha. I'm not saying it's a USADA-related thing, although if you've ever seen pictures of her when she was supremely jacked, whoa, supremely jacked. I don't know what it is, but something is missing there. And Ansaroff could capitalize on that. Ansaroff, on paper, is not the better striker. I only say that because Claudia Gadelha's got the more power, and she's a little more technically sound. Ansaroff's got that long lineage of traditional martial arts. She'll go out there and throw high kicks. She'll throw more volume, but she's not as tight and technical. But she could go out there and literally just beat Claudia Gadelha based on striking volume.
Stuff takedowns.
That's the key, is that if she keeps the fight standing with Claudia Gadelha, she's going to outpunch her based on volume. She'll get rocked a couple times, but she's got a great chin. She could take Claudia's best punch. I pretty much can assure you that. She'll take those punches, and Claudia Gadelha, that's it. But she has traditionally struggled hard when girls take her to the ground and control her on the ground. And Claudia has gotten beaten up her last couple fights in striking exchanges, so that she knows now, I don't really want to get into another 15 minutes of striking with an opponent that just keeps hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. Now, you go back to 2 fights ago for her and Jessica Andrade. She starts out really well, and then eventually it's like, oh shit, I can't take this girl down anymore, and she keeps coming forward. The fight with Carla Esparza, Carla's actually one of the better wrestlers in the division. Like, she's probably number two behind Suarez in terms of just pure wrestling. So Again, she kind of got tired and she was not able to take her down. That created a problem because Esparza had more in the gas tank and was willing to push the pace. But in this particular spot, Ansaroff's got more cardio and can push a better pace, but it's going to be tough when she's on her back end and controlled. I feel like GADELHA doesn't want to get into a gunfight, therefore she'll look to grapple early and often. And look what this girl did against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She is strong, she'll plow you to the ground, and she's a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. That's what she needs to bring to the table in this Ansaroff fight and actually pursue it.
It's a very straightforward fight for her.
But stick to the game plan. And if she does that, she actually will score accordingly. $9,300 is so much. And $335 is a ridiculous price. But I do think she gets the job done. And she's starting to become untrustworthy. She won the Esparza fight, which could have been a robbery. I had a lot invested in her there, so I'm glad she got the win. But she's starting to become untrustworthy. And as someone who has won a lot of money, dog money on Ansaroff, I have not picked a dog to this point. You could do worse than Ansaroff. Ansaroff and BOCHNIAK are not the worst dog selections to this point.
So that was your tri-annual edition of the Ansaroff Whisperer featuring Cody Saftic. Ansaroff. Caitlin Chookagian takes on Jessica Eye. Chookagian is 8,700 and minus 190 favorite. Jessica Eye 7,500 and plus 165. This fight, it's a great opportunity to go to the bathroom, grab yourself another drink, another refreshment. I'm sorry. I just can't get on board any sort of Caitlin Chookagian fight. She's Holly Holm light. That's what we've been saying. But, like, I don't really see the other aspects of her game all that much. I see a tepid striking affair where both combatants kind of keep their distance. Chookagian outpoints her, wins a relatively close decision, but we all know who wins the fight at the end of it. Jessica Eye is also out there talking about, like, oh, Joanna shouldn't have jumped me in the line to get the title. It's just like,
She talks a lot of ridiculous
has
shit.
anybody accomplished less than Jessica Eye and talked so much shit?
No, Jessica Eye is no. Remember one time, this is years ago, she was like, nobody wants to take me on a date because everyone's so afraid of me. And there's like a line of people that are like, baby, I'll take you on a date. Like, she just loves talking mad smack. And she's always been like that. She just got a mad chip on her shoulder. And when she lost those like 5 fights, especially because a lot of them were kind of, I don't know, some of them were suspicious in nature. It's like, oh, this girl really does feel like she's just mad overlooked. And now that she's won a couple fights and they haven't even been all that spectacular, it's like, my time. It's like, is it your time, Jessica Eye? This is going to be a bad fight.
This is going to be a horrible fight. This is a fight that you want no part, like not even a share of this fight. If this is the fight that beats you on DraftKings because one of these ladies gets a finish or it's just like crazy amounts of action, then hey, props to the people who went out on the limb to take some action on this one in DraftKings lineups. But this is the easiest stay away fight on the card. Like, there's really, I just don't see I see the winner getting like 55, 60 points.
Yeah,
tops.
well, I mean, I think Jessica Eye averages like 48 points and Chookagian averages 54 points. And Chookagian's like 4-1 in the UFC and she averages 54 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made a good point when you said the whole Holly Holm thing, because Holly Holm is always there, but doesn't quite commit to her strikes half of the time. Chookagian's problem is that she's always there, but doesn't commit to her strikes 75% of the time. And it's a lot of just, it almost seems like fainting with a lot of commitment to it, because she goes all the way in and fails to actually deliver on the actual strike. But she's faster than Jessica Eye. This is going to be a striking battle, and I think she just dances circles around her. So I think this is a pretty straightforward fight. Minus 190, it's not a great price because, you know, middling women's MMA, you can get caught in bad situations like this. But honestly, just look at Caitlin Chookagian. It's not an impressive style.
No.
It really isn't. But it nets results.
But it's effective.
If she was to dye her hair black and move up to 185 pounds, there's a good chance she'd be Elias Theodorou. Because it's an effective style that usually gets you booed at some point in the night. But Lauren Murphy, there's a big, tough, rugged girl who at the time is established. She just dances circles around her. Her only loss in the UFC, Liz Carmouche, it's a split decision. And geez, Carmouche, really not all that bad. And she's got a grinding style where she's a lot stronger than these girls. She's got a better ground game on these girls. She'll cut the angle off, find you, track you down, peel you to the ground, and make it dirty. Jessica Eye could do no such thing. So you can't even really compare that fight. But the Irene Aldana fight, the Mauro Barella fight, the Alexis Davis fight, she's a little bit faster than these girls. She just seemingly is just doing a little bit more work. And like Holly Holm, when you're not seeing anything go around, Actually, this is to steal a line from Dominic Cruz. Actually, no, he's the one that does it. I don't know. I'm stealing a line from somebody famous that I'm forgetting to give them their respect. But they called Dominic Cruz, maybe it's Faber. It's peacocking. There might not be anything going on in those exchanges, but Cruz is moving side to side, being like, ha 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 ha. So you just fucking assume something's going on. This is the same thing. If neither girl is. If the round ends and 0 significant strikes has been landed on both sides, and one girl literally ran around, circles this girl, and went ha 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 the whole time, you're just gonna give the round to her. Diego Sanchez.
The judges are gonna be like, well,
Diego
I don't know
Sanchez
who won that
Leonard
round,
Garcia.
but I'm gonna lean towards Maria Sharapova here.
Yeah, Leonard Garcia and Diego Sanchez won many of fights by swinging at the air.
Yep.
Right? TJ, he doesn't do that. He peacocks a little bit and sets up actual legitimate strikes, but. In middling fights where nothing's happening, that happens. And literally, Jessica I has made a career of losing close decisions where nothing happens. She got robbed in Cleveland, whereas it's her hometown.
Her versus Sarah McMahon?
Betch Correia.
Oh, there was the Sarah McMahon one where literally nothing happened in that fight,
She
too.
got taken down multiple times. But the Correia fight was just a striker's delight in terms of this girl, you can just strike with her. She got robbed at home because nothing fucking happened, Paul. And this is the same thing.
And this is the exact type of opponent. If she charges forward, then she gets picked off and Chookagian retreats. And if she
Not fast enough.
if she
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
charge forward, nothing happens because Chookagian's gonna do the counter striking. Like that's just what she is. That's what she does. So it's one of those situations.
The problem I see here is that Jessica I is going to do the counter punching. So what's going to happen is
Nothing.
Jessica I is going to stand in the middle of the ring and be like, "Let's do this," and Chookagian's going to hop in and feint her, which will cause her to swing and probably miss, and it'll just be a lot of them staring each other down, but Chookagian doing the more work. And the last point on this is if you don't want to, if you look at the fighters, you look at the styles, you look at all that, and you're not fully convinced or anything, you just want to look at one more thing, just look at it from like a stats standpoint, right? Katlyn Chookagian's 4-1 in the UFC. All 5 of those fights have gone the decision. 2 of those fights have been split decisions. They're close fights that she's getting the decision more times than not because they're seeing her style being a little more effective. Important to note, 2 of those fights being by split decision. Jessica I, literally all of her fights, except for the time that Leslie Smith's ear exploded, all of her fight, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 8 decision. And out of those, again, 3 of them by split decision. She's in close fights all the time where nothing really happens, and she loses the decision. And Chookagian's in close fights that nothing really happens, and she wins the decision. So if you want to throw everything else out the window and just look at it for that, Chookagian. And if you don't like minus 190, which how could you?
No.
By decision. There's really only one way she wins.
Yep. And we have Elias Theodorou taking on Eric Anders. Elias Theodorou, 8,200 on DraftKings, minus 120 favorite. Anders is 8,000 and plus 100. What's your take here?
Yeah, see, I back Anders a lot. Like, I back, and still to this day, I back him over a lot of these mid-level talents. Can he fight the highest level? Jeez, I don't know. He's showing like maybe he can't. The Machida fight, close. But again, you know, very, very...
I thought he got a little bit robbed there.
I don't think
robbed
so.
may not be the right word, but I thought he won.
I think his extremely questionable ring IQ came into play, and he lost that fight, a fight that he could have won. And that should have been a learning experience for the guy. And then the Thiago Santos fight, here's another winnable fight for you. You know, this guy's got power, you got power. He's got a questionable chin, you had a good chin. Put it on this guy. It wasn't questionable ring IQ, it's just that you really saw his limitations, you know? He's a great athlete, he was a great football player, but he's not a great fighter. He's not gun shy, you know? Like, he's got a willingness to engage, but he spends a lot of time, again, probably just looking to counterpunch, but standing in front of you. He'll back guys up square against the cage, and they'll stand there for 2 seconds.
Man, that Tim Williams fight was actually another example of like...
It's like just
that
let
was
your hands
a
go,
softball. They lobbed it up for him
Here's
to
a
get
guy
the
that
knockout.
Can't take a punch.
Yeah.
Taking on a guy
And
that
it
literally
took
only
until,
has a
late in round 3 for him to finally close the show there.
Yeah, not only was it late in round 3, it was late in round 3, the guy tried to scramble, getting up, and you booted him in the face. Like, this wasn't like, oh, I caught him with a clean right standing that I set up properly. It was like, I booted him in the face as he was trying to get back up. So, does he have power? Yeah. Does he have all the athletic gifts in the world? Yeah. The biggest thing I've got against him is he appears to have no ring IQ.
And
the
Elias is
flip
kind of
side
the
to
exact
that-
opposite to that.
The flip side of that is Elias seemingly has no skill. He is not a great wrestler. He is not good as a grappler. He's not good on the ground. His striking has no pop.
He's not a tremendous athlete. He's a professional athlete. So like he's a good athlete. He's better than me or you sitting at this table. Don't get us wrong, right?
Of course.
But we're talking about a guy who played in the national championship for Alabama. And like
He won them the national.
Yeah,
title
he had
because
like a fumble recovery.
Fumble recovery wins.
Yeah, like he's on the field for a national championship.
A
Like
bunch of his buddies are now playing in the NFL.
Of course.
and he's a tad bit too small. Or else, although he said I had a couple like tryout offers, but I had already made up my mind.
Yeah.
Phenomenal athlete, much better athlete than Elias. The difference is that one guy relies completely on his physical attributes to get him the win, and against lower level guys that he catches, he gets those wins. One guy does not rely on those attributes. You know, he does the best he can, but he just outworks opponents. He's just a little bit faster. He's a little bit smarter, and it's terrible. Like on Saturday night, I can guarantee that Elias Theodorou, this is going to sound super weird. How do you know this, Cody? I can guarantee Elias Theodorou is going to take 3 showers on Saturday. He's going to wake up in the morning and he'll take a shower. And then after the fight, obviously, he's going to take a shower. And then mid-fight, he's going to get showered in booze because that is what happens to Elias Theodorou in fights. It's a terrible, aesthetically pleasing style. It's just not good to look at, but it's effective.
He spams kicks.
And he gets the job done. And the guys like Brad Tavares, there's a guy that's like, he stands his ground. He's a sharp technical striker. He is not a wowzer in any category, but he is competent. And Elias Theodorou couldn't get past him. The Thiago Santos fight, here's a guy that's a big, strong brute, and he couldn't get past him. I don't see those problems here in Anders. Big, strong brute, maybe. But big, strong brute that's going to come at you and just put on some punishing damage, not so much.
Elias
what I can
has-
see this fight being is Anders coming in, swinging those big shots, and Elias just dipping. And then Elias kicking him 2, 3, 4, 5. Like watching a Peter Sabata fight, traditional Peter Sabata, where it doesn't hit the ground, where he just keeps kicking the whole time. Eventually, you're going to be like, what's this punch stats on that round? Well, Anders landed 7 nice punches, or decent punches, and Elias landed 20 kicks. He's just going to outwork him. I hate that he's the favorite, though. I don't know why he's the favorite. Maybe other people are thinking this is going to happen as well. But I'd love to get him for dog money. Probably not going to happen, so you're going to have to settle for this. And again, it's going to be a decision if it's going to be a win for Elias. So try to get yourself some extra value.
If I'm playing one of these guys on DraftKings, it's Anders though.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't just
Like what upside? What upside does Elias have?
Well, he's only $8,200.
No, his opponent's only 8,000.
Yeah, okay. But here's my only
If you land
reasoning
20
on it.
spammed kicks over 3 rounds of 60 significant strikes plus the win bonus, like what's your upside?
If Anders doesn't knock him out and Elias has never been knocked out and took big shots.
If somebody's going to get a knockout finish here, who is it though?
This fight's going the distance. Just bet the over if you want. I'm sure that's
probably
a big juicy number too.
That's probably the same thing to do.
Yeah, of course. Here's the issue with Anders is that when you rely on your striking, let's say he wins and there's a striking battle, he'll have landed 20 significant strikes.
Yeah.
You're banking on maybe he gets the knockout, but Elias, I'll never forget this about Elias. We've known Elias a long time. We knew him long before he was in the UFC.
Yep.
The funny guy. This guy, yeah, he tries hard, but he's not all that skilled. He'll probably never make it to the UFC. He makes it to the UFC. Real easy coded for him on the way up. He beats Sheldon Westcott to get the title, the Ultimate Fighter title. He takes on like Roger Narvaez, who was beating him and then broke his arm. Like it's a soft way up. But when he fought Thiago Santos, he got rocked many times, which he took them great. And I'll never forget this. Yeah. He's got a large cut on his head. And there's blood everywhere. It's in his eyes. It's in his magnificent mane. It's everywhere. And he's losing the fight. And maybe he's tired. Never used to get tired on the regional scene. But he's tired in this fight. He's hurt. He's tired. He's bleeding. And the doctor comes in. And before the doctor can say a word, he's like, I'm good. I can see. Let's go. The guy's a fighter. Didn't know he was a fighter till that day, but the guy's a fighter. I don't see Anders knocking him out. I don't. He's gotten hit by just as big of power punchers as Anders before, live to tell the tale. Anders doesn't throw enough of them, and if he did get him rocked, he'd pounce on him. So I see the fight go to the decision. And if it is going to go to the decision, then who's better than the decision master? Elias Theodorou. So I don't usually bet Elias. Well, I do, giving on the situation. And I don't love the situation because Anders is a talented guy. But styles make fights. I've always said that. And this is the kind of style where ring IQ is going to play a big part, I think.
Well, you could be right. You could be right. I think the over, I don't know what the over is off the top of my head right now, but like it should be a big over or a big number because that's probably how it plays out. We got Olivier Aubin-Mercier taking on Gilbert Burns. Olivier Aubin-Mercier, 8,500 minus 120. Gilbert Burns, 7,700 plus 100. Close to a pick'em here. Both guys coming off of losses. Aubin-Mercier coming off of a loss to Hernandez. Hernandez is a young stud in the making that's making improvements every single fight. So no real hate to that. Like, it is what it is. It's just like Hernandez is so well-rounded, got good striking, and obviously he showcases wrestling in that situation there, being able to take him down, control him. And then Gilbert Burns got knocked out by Dan Hooker, who's kind of a guy on the rise right now. So both guys coming off of like decent, like good prospects in the lightweight division. How do you see this one shaking out?
I'm going to have to go with Gilbert Burns ever so slightly. I think both guys actually kind of match up pretty near even to each other. Yeah. You know, Aubin-Mercier, when he gets his wrestling game going, and obviously he's got heavy top game pressure, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Doesn't play very well here, exactly.
Because, you know, even if you could... This is truthfully how I see it. When he fought Diego Ferreira, my bad. Carlos Diego Ferreira. No, I'm fucking up the name. So many Brazilians, Ferreiras and Diegos and Carloses. Carlos Diego Ferreira. When Aubin-Mercier fought him, I'm pretty sure Aubin-Mercier was the favorite in that spot. And the whole thought process here was like, oh, dude, he's a black belt too. But Ferreira's a third-degree black belt. But, oh, Mercier is a black belt. And, oh, Mercier is working on his striking. Ferreira just swings bombs. Ferreira was like tailor-made to crush Aubin-Mercier. Seemed like, honestly, from watching the fight, looks like he'd beat him 9 out of 10 times. He had his number straight up. Because the thing was, dude, you're good on the ground, not on my level. So let's keep this as a striking battle. You've got a robotic herky-jerky style, which you've worked on, and you've come a long way. But you're not a striker. You're not going to be comfortable in striking exchanges against guys that are strikers. So you can use your wrestling against them. And when the wrestling works or the striking works, you've got two avenues. Against guys like Ferreira, you couldn't take him to the ground and you couldn't stand with them. And I almost get the impression that that's the exact same situation here with Burns. Burns has spent a lot of time working on his striking because nobody wants to go to the ground with this guy. No. And his wrestling's pretty horrendous. So I've got to learn how to use my striking. And he falls in love with his striking a little bit, which I would rather him try to get the fight to the ground than standing up there and banging, but there's no doubt that...
It's going to be hard for him to take down Ollie. Ollie is super, super strong. That's for sure. Like, I think this takes place on the feet.
I agree. We've got a striking battle, so who's the better striker? And even though Burns just got smoked out by Hooker, Hooker is long and has... that nasty knee has been catching a lot.
That New Zealand gym right now is hot fire as well. Adesanya, Kaikara France, Dan Hooker, like they've got a good thing going there right now.
They've got a really good thing going on right there. They're on fire. So it's no shame in losing to him. His two prior wins, Dan Moret and Jason Sago. Yeah, dude, good wins. Dan Moret's durable and he finished him. Jason Sago had never been knocked out before. He got a great chin. Dude, he caught him clean, like a nasty knockout. The guy has been with the Black Stallions for a long time. Obviously, they've gone through all their management changes, but he's been with Henry Hu for a long time. He's worked on his striking for a long time. Can he go out there and beat Dan Hooker in a striking battle? No fucking chance. Can he go out there and beat a lot of these guys in a striking battle? No, dude, no chance. But can he beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier in a striking battle? Yeah. It's going to be a striking battle, and I think he beats him in a striking battle. The one thing is that, you know, these two guys were previously scheduled to meet, and Gilbert Burns was deemed too heavy to fight at 155. And so now he's making 55 again. He's got a questionable cardio. Questionable. And Aubin-Mercier's not going anywhere, I don't think. So Burns has got to win the first 2 rounds and then rest on his laurels. But he's going to have to win those first 2, and I think he should be able to. So give me Gilbert Burns, $7,700. I think that's a price that you just cannot beat. I wouldn't play him everywhere, but talk about good value for a guy that can score big. Plus 100. I don't have a whole lot of dogs on this card, and this doesn't feel like a true dog to me because he's even money, but I'm not taking the favorite the whole way through. So give me Burns to get the upset. And I'm hoping that the Toronto love and the Canadian love pours out this, maybe Aubin-Mercier goes up a little bit, and they disrespect Burns a little bit. So
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. We have Alexander Rakic taking on Devin Clark. Rakic is the most expensive guy on DraftKings and the biggest favorite, minus 650. Devin Clark is 6,700 and 6,700 plus 475. Rakic is 9,500 on DraftKings. If I failed to mention that, Rakic really, really good striker. He looks like he's pretty legit, and this is more or less a fight that they're setting him up against a guy who's a little bit chinny, has a little bit of a wrestling pedigree, a little bit of a wrestling background, but nothing that should startle Rakic all that much. Like, I think Rakic rolls here. It's more the pricing that is keeping me away from him, both on like my early DraftKings lineup build and from like the money line too. It's just like minus 650. You got to be damn sure that he's able to take these or to stop any sort of takedowns and so on and so forth. Like on the feet, he's gonna torch Devin Clark. Like it's not even it's not even close.
The question is the takedown. That's the only
question is the takedown, and I think he passes that test. But at 9,500 on DraftKings with a striking type of style, you need that finish. And you know this guy. Very, very technical, very sharp, but maybe not the biggest power puncher. It's a fight that right now I'm kind of staying away from just because I think you can get more point upside from a bunch of the other people in that range.
Yeah, I agree. 9,500. I think with Devin Clark is that a lot of the time you think about him, the first thing that pops to your head is chinny. But like, what makes him chinny? That steroided up Alex Nicholson caught him with. Not a clean punch, and it knocked him out. Yeah, that looks chinny, but since then, it's not like he's appeared to be chinny. He's 3-1 since that knockout loss, and you know the Blachowicz fight got submitted, so it wasn't as if this guy's going out there pulling an Anthony Hamilton. In many ways, this has got like it's a Frankie Sion spot. Back in the day, I used to like those Nate Coy spots where guys are going to disrespect them because maybe they're a little older, maybe they're I don't know, considered chinny. Maybe they're just considered not the most appealing play out there. But that simple wrestling game can get you far against low-level guys. And the thing with Rakic is we just don't know if all that work at ATT has got his ground game sharp yet. His 2 fights in the UFC, he's fought in guys that, quite frankly, are unable to expose any weaknesses on the ground. I mean, especially the fight with Justin Ledet, but Francimar Barroso's a black belt. Barroso should be able to go out there and take you down. And Barroso had some spots of success with him, but 205 Barroso, kind of reinvented himself at heavyweight lately, but 205 Barroso, there's no pace to him. There's no give to him. There's no throttle to him. There's no... I need to actually do something. He just falls into the motions. Yep. And with Rakic, he just kept the fight. There's no single legs. There's no low shot takedowns. It's mostly rear waist locks and clench, Greco-Roman style. So yeah, he's able to stuff those takedowns. And against Justin Ledet, who I guess does a little bit of jiu-jitsu on the side, he can't wrestle. So you got a one-dimensional boxer here who you beat standing. We know that Devin Clark, I think he's a former junior college national champion. At the very least, he was a former, D3 guy, I think. Trains at Jackson Winklejohn. I mean, hey, who's he probably putting a camp in for this fight? John Jones. John Jones is a tall, long, rangy striker. Rakic is a tall, long, rangy striker too. They are not similar in terms of their actual style, but I just mean he's getting reps against good guys, long guys, good strikers. And surely the game plan is take this guy down, control this guy in the ground, which is what he's capable of doing. I got to go with Rakic, but for 9,500, I am not sold on him yet. Can't do it. 650? No dice. No dice. Maybe he goes out and knocks him out. Lyman Good was 7-1.
And then we'll have more information on him.
Lyman Good was 7-1. He beat Ben Saunders. It's like, yeah, there's a fight where if he clips Ben Saunders, he got to knock him out. This is a spot. If he could get the first round knockout, and people will say, worth the 7-1 because he could look that way, but also he could get taken down, and you could think to yourself, what was I thinking putting this European kickboxer in against a low-level American wrestler? That's sometimes the key. And with good coaching, what Devin Clark has, and good supporting cast around him, surely the game plan could be there. But Rakic seems like he's on the way up, and Devin Clark, his wins in the UFC are over just the absolute bottom of the barrel. So the UFC don't mind parting ways with a guy like that. 5 fights into his UFC career, second contract's probably just getting ready to run up. Hasn't looked great in really any of his fights. Rakic is the guy they want to promote, but sometimes those wrestling exchanges for unknown kickboxers, how many this guy's not even world champion, but we'll move on here. But how many world-class Bellator kickboxers, I even shouldn't say Bellator, just kickboxers in general, make the transition and are no good?
Joe Schilling.
So many of them. Joe Schilling, no good. Sage Northcutt's sister Colby, she was supposed to run, no good. Denise Keyholes, no good. Like is just a lot of them, and this might fit the mold. I don't know. It might. We'll have to see.
Kansaki.
You know what? It's just because we're on the spot, but I could literally make you a list of like 20 world-class kickboxers.
We've seen the story before.
Yeah, and you'll continue to see it, and this could be that spot. I got him picked. I'm just saying for the 650.
I don't think it's the spot, but they're not giving you a price to take him.
There's a great.
You know what I mean?
If he's 3-1, I'm betting him. At
Yeah,
6-1,
exactly.
I'm not touching him.
100%. We have Brad Katona taking on Matthew Lopez. Brad Katona, 8,900 on DraftKings and a -185 favorite. Matthew Lopez, 7,300 and plus 160. A penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, as far as value plays go on the card, and by that I mean guys that are sub -200s on the card, like less than a 2-1. Brad Katona's it. But the 8,900 on DraftKings is very reflective of this guy's going to finish and roll and get a lot of points, and that I don't necessarily see. This is a good matched fight. Both guys are actually kind of similar. Matthew Lopez, underachiever, but good wrestler, good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trains with Justin Gaethje and Cast, at a high level. Hardworking guy, doesn't always kind of turn the corner in his UFC fights, but serviceable. And with Brad Katona, we haven't seen enough of him, but being that you and I personally are Canadian, we've seen everything there is to see. There's just not a whole lot to actually see. Nobody wanted to fight this guy. He took a couple pro boxing matches just to stay busy. He one time fought at 155 pounds just to stay busy. He was on Tough at 145 because...
And he won Tough at 145. Now he's down at 135.
And now he's down to 135. And this guy is, by Canadian standards, a scary good prospect. He's been a top prospect in Canada probably the last 2 or 3 years. Again, his record only shows seven wins, but nobody wanted to fight this guy. And I'm sure people hear that all over the place, but this is Canada. It's not a whole lot of big talent pool of guys, and you're not going to fly in an American and pay him $4,000 to sell no seats at some small venue in Manitoba to build his career. Nobody was willing to do that. It's not boxing, right? So with Katona, he's a lot better than maybe his inexperience would suggest. It's that he's not a specialist in any one area. He's an okay boxer. Again, has some pro experience, but he's not a one-punch guy, and he's technically sound. He throws good combinations, but he's not the one of the best strikers in the division. He's not one of the best wrestlers in the division. His ground game, very top-heavy, not one of the best wrestlers in the division, but he's a very, very, very smart guy. He's got very high ring IQ. He knows when to transition from his striking to his takedowns. He knows when to steal the round. He knows the certain things he needs to do in order to win, and Matthew Lopez does not. Matthew Lopez struggles in those situations. The only really relatable opponent that you could say that Matthew Lopez has fought that kind of emulates a similar style to Brad Katona would be Mitch Gagnon. But Mitch Gagnon was coming off a year-long break, maybe even longer than a year.
That fight was actually in Toronto as well.
It was. And Mitch Gagnon wins the first round. In fact, dare I say, dominates the first round. And then
knocked him down.
Flat gases.
Got taken down, controlled for the next 2 rounds.
It was so gassed. He's a black belt, and he's a good black belt.
I had bet Lopez there, and let me tell you, I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified in round 1, and we scraped it out despite Canadian judging and all of that. Lopez still pulled it out, but I did not feel good about winning that bet at the end of it.
I remember people being like, everybody knows that Mitch Gagnon did not win that fight. But I remember a bunch of people being like, well, maybe the first round's a 10-8. Like, give me a draw.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he got straight dominated. And then Mitch, who'd been off for a while, gassed out. He was able to just grind him a little bit with the takedown, a little bit of top game. He wins, a shitty little decision, and Mitch Gagnon never fought again. So now you're taking on Brad Katona, which if he emulates a similar style whatsoever, this guy's not going away after the first round. He's going to get better after the first round. And this guy's young, and he's hungry, and he's not going to gas out, and he's going to find a way to win. He is going to win. I truthfully do believe for a less than a 2-1, -185, you can't say he's the safest guy in the pick on the card, but I like him. I like Brad Katona. I think he gets the job done. And for storylines being storylines, if you're the UFC, this guy just won the Ultimate Fighter. He's a tough champion. Notoriously, tough champions generally cruise in their first outing outside of the Ultimate Fighter house. And let's build this guy up. He's Canadian. We're in Canada. They say he's a local fan favorite. He's undefeated. Let's build this guy up. Whereas Matthew Lopez, he's 3-2 in the UFC. Dana found him on that looking for a fight. They gave him a shot. He hasn't really looked the part. Yeah, he trains with Gaethje, but that's people saying that reminds me of the Jean Volante, Chris Weidman situation. It's like, who gives a shit who he trains with? We've seen enough of him to know that he's not really getting better. He's got maybe questionable cardio. Chin's good. Questionable. He's been hurt. He's been rocked.
If he goes to the wrestling, I think watching some of
down.
Katona's fights on the Ultimate Fight or watching that Bryce Mitchell matchup,
fight.
I saw him get exposed a little bit there in positional control, getting reversed against Bryce Mitchell, who's not really a world-class grappler or anything like that.
But he's good. I mean, Lopez's case, maybe he's a more technically sound guy, but
I think you could do a lot worse in terms of it's hard finding the cheap pieces on this card. Like I could see Lopez being a sneaky little dog. He's not going to get you any crazy upside, but maybe he squeaks one out. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's pretty close. It's a stay away more or less from me. I'm just kind of deciding whether I'm going to roster any Lopez on DraftKings this week.
Yeah. Well, the only thing left I can say on it is with Lopez, because I think he's a brown belt, and that his go-to is his ground game. But he smoked Johnny Eduardo on the ground, which any competent blue belt could likely do. With his next two fights, Rafael Assunção, ground game's not going to be used there.
Brad Katona gets his ass beat in that fight too.
What can you do? But the fight with Alejandro Perez is in real sneaky, greasy, tight decisions where he hustles you a little bit. And he knocked out Matthew Lopez after losing the first round, but caught him and knocked him out. Lopez might have a questionable chin, might have questionable cardio, might have questionable ring IQ. I just feel like Katona finds a way.
Fair enough. We have Chad LaPrise taking on Diego Lima. We were talking about questionable chins. We have LaPrise is 9,100 DraftKings, minus 380 favorite. Lima is 7,100 and plus 315. Diego Lima coming off of 3 straight losses. I know he had that little stint on the Ultimate Fighter. I'm not going to count that. It doesn't really count towards his official record. He lost on Titan FC, and then he's lost his last 2 fights. He went the distance against Yushin Okami, but got controlled. It was a pretty scrappy, greasy fight, and he got controlled there. It doesn't take much to turn this guy's lights out. He's probably taken so much damage in the gym from his brother, Douglas, who is
significantly better.
An absolute stud. I think Chad LaPrise rolls here. I think he gets the knockout. Obviously, Chad LaPrise coming off the loss against Vicente Luque, who's one of the most underrated guys in the division in general. This is a get back on track type of spot for Chad LaPrise. 9,100, I guess, is expensive, especially you're looking for that knockout, but he has the right type of opponent to land that strike, clean it up, finish off the fight. I got LaPrise. I know he's a little bit undersized. Diego Lima should have a little bit of size on him, but wouldn't be the first time that Diego Lima got knocked out by a guy who he's a little bit bigger than.
Yeah, but you know what? Even then, anybody you ever meet that you're used to mostly seeing on TV, they're always like, the guy's a little bit smaller than I thought he was going to be. Chad LaPrise is one of the few people when I met, I was like, damn, this guy's a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be. He's not the tallest guy, but he packs it in there, dude. He used to really struggle to make 55. At 170, he's not going to be the biggest guy, again, because of that height, but I feel like he's got Diego Lima's number here, kind of wherever the fight takes place. Diego Lima's got big holes, questionable chin. I hate to keep feeding a fed horse. What's the PETA way of seeing beating a dead horse? Is it feed a fed horse?
I don't know. I don't know, but I'm offended.
Well, that's why I said feeding a fed horse.
I think it was feeding,
which is hilarious if you think about it.
Oh my god, that whole thing was just egregious.
Yeah.
Imagine being offended by any of those terms. Imagine living that life.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If you're offended by "Baby It's Cold Outside," then you are offended.
Or kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It was feed 2 birds with one scone is what they wanted. And it's just don't feed bread to birds.
Yeah, it's
you savage. What, you want the birds to all die, all of their stomachs to overexpand and explode?
Yeah.
What, do you hate birds?
Well, baby, it's cold outside. They're like, this is offensive because something happened here that the one party went down with. And all I can say is, you think that's offensive, then you're gonna think this fight with Chad LaPrise and Diego Lima on Saturday is offensive because something's going to happen to one of them 2 parties that They don't want to happen. And I think it's going to be lights out for Diego Lima. Yeah, maybe he takes Chad Laprise's best punches. I really don't think this guy can take a punch. But it's the fact that if your game is be the better striker, and he's got no fucking ground game. Like, his ground game is very soft. Guys that are somewhat competent on the ground, Jesse Taylor is a powerhouse, strong guy. He takes him down, he grinds him down. You should don't call me powerhouse, strong guy. He takes him down and grinds him down. I shouldn't say he's got no ground game. It's that's an easy path to victory if you can wrestle, is take this guy down. He's got no submissions off his back. He's tall and lanky. You can easily control him on the ground. Do that. But if you just want to actually stand with him and throw punches, you can clip him. And also knock him out. He's had such a strange trajectory. He was in the MFC. He was like 21 years old. He's supposed to be the next shit. He's fighting for a Canadian promotion of all things. And then loses to Nathan Coy. Moves around a bunch of places. But on the Ultimate Fighter the first time around, he's like 24. Gets on the Ultimate Fighter the second time around, he's like 27. Now he's 28. There's no hype there. He's never really lived up to anything. And there's just glaring holes in his game. Getting knocked out, because I thought about this. I said, you know what? Eddie Gordon is a middleweight. That's a big, strong guy. And he clipped him and he knocked him out. But boy, oh boy, did he go out. And it happened relatively quick. Tim Means. Tim Means is a sharp, technical striker and big power. But he went out. It wasn't like a DKO. He's out. And it was fast. Jing Liang Li. Dude, that guy's big and he throws heaters. Boy, oh boy, it's not just that he's getting finished. It's Paul. He's getting separated from his consciousness. Like, he is being sent to the shadow realm on one strike. Means it was a plethora of strikes, but, you know, he loses his equilibrium quick. Those guys are all power punchers. This Titan FC fight with Jason Jackson, that's when I was like, he cannot take a punch. And Chad Laprise is going to go out there and look to strike with this guy. And Chad Laprise, again, is smart enough to mix up the ground game that he'll try to take him down. And either if he succeeds, I'd be very happy. But if he doesn't succeed, it's that thinking of the takedown, putting that in Diego Lima's mind and causing him to maybe keep his hands down a little bit. Should open up the striking enough for him to catch something at some point. Minus 380. God, I hate these near 4-1 favorites, especially a guy in Laprise that is coming off a knockout loss. Got starched by Luque. Got starched by Francisco Trinaldo before that. Maybe he can't take a big, strong punch either. But Lima's not really a power puncher to the extent that those other Brazilian bruisers really are. So I feel like once he feels what Lima's got and realizes, he's not hurting me in the same way, that he'll get his confidence going. And once Chad Laprise gets his confidence going, it's a next thing. But the reason I don't love it at 4-1 or 9,100, Chad Laprise coming off that knockout loss, he could be nearing the end of his career. He's in his early 30s, but he's always talked about being a pastor. He's always talked about leaving early.
Starting the fight church.
Yeah, he had a mad stutter getting into the game. Like, I'm sure he's not looking to push it. And there's no doubt that losing 2 fights in the way that he did, which are big knockout losses, for a guy that had never been knocked out before, had never really been hurt before, it's got to play something in your head. We see this like a Ryan LaFleur. He's got the skill and he's training at a high level and he's got this and that. It's like there's other shit going on in his life. Laprise is one of those guys that gives me the impression that this isn't the end-all be-all. And I want a guy that's going to go in there and is Jared Gordon, I'm willing to die in here, is Shane Burgos, I am willing to die in here. Like, those are the guys I back for big play. But with Laprise, you know, maybe that overthinking it, and he's a guy that overthinks it, for nearly 4-1, not all that appealing. But I have Laprise getting the win here.
And finally, we have Carlos Diego Ferreira taking on Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson coming in on short notice, replacing Jesse Ronson, who has had a really, really unfair run when you kind of think about like all the murders that Jesse Ronson fought. He obviously takes this fight, not able to make weight on short notice. So Kyle Nelson steps in. Hopefully they can get Ronson back. It doesn't sound like they're going to. But
no, they don't like when people say
that they'll do it.
I'm
and
at 55. Yeah. Well, how's your weight right now? I got it. And then call looking for a catch.
You look at Ronson's career, or his UFC tenure. He had like 3 murderers back to back to back, and then he got cut.
3 straight splits.
Like that's a tough go.
Like Prazeres,
Trinaldo,
and Trinaldo.
Yeah.
Like talk about
a murderer's row of underrated guys that don't have the name brand value.
Yeah.
And you lose to them, and then it sucks. It sucks for Jesse Ronson.
You're
I'll say that.
goddamn right it does.
So Carlos Diego Ferreira is 9,200 on DraftKings, minus 485 favorite. Kyle Nelson 7,000 plus 350. What's your take?
I mean, I'm very, very, very familiar with Kyle Nelson.
Yeah.
I kind of thought he'd get the call before Ronson. Only reason I say that is when you're a week out of weigh-ins, you generally get a 45er that's going to take you. You don't take Jesse Ronson, who's had struggles making 55 on full camps, who has fought at 170 on a week's notice. Jesse Ronson is a fan favorite up here in Canada. Been watching him for a very long time. Nothing but respect for Jesse Ronson. And this is no way any offense to Jesse Ronson, but we knew he wasn't going to be able to make 55 on a week's notice. You know what I mean? Like, he's a big guy. Kyle Nelson, meanwhile, just fought in Romania 3 weeks ago. He's in shape. He's been wanting to fight in the UFC for a while. And he beat Jonathan Brookins. That should have got him there. Sean Shelby's exact words were, he doesn't have a whole lot of finishes, so go get one more marquee victory or some more finishes. And, you know, he's kind of slow-plated. He's taken the slow route, so to speak. And then this is a tough spot, because UFC's in your own backyard. You're not even their first selection for a short notice replacement. Now you're getting that call. Bright lights, got to move up a weight class. He's 12-1. His only loss of his career, Adrian Hadjabij, who is a Michigan fighter, the Eagle. Good fighter, competent, striker. Might make it to the UFC somewhere down the road. He's a young guy. That's his only career loss. It's at 55. He took that fight at 55 to stay busy, and he was undersized. He's a strong, grinding 45er. But that goes all way out the window when you're taking on the bigger guys. Hadjabij is a striker. He's not even a grappler. But that extra 10 pounds was the difference maker, and he was able to beat him. His wins after that, Justin Burgos, local East Coaster, 7-6 pro record, hadn't fought in 2 years. Zoltan Turi, 4-5 Romanian fighter. Gabriel Manuka, 0-0 fighter. The Brookins fight, split decision. Some people thought Brookins won, but it's just Brookins is not. First of all, he's not who he used to be. Second of all, he never was what people thought he could be. You know, he's a perennial underachiever who just flows in the fight and lets the fight happen and generally loses. And that's kind of what happened here with Kyle Nelson. After that, he's trying to stay busy. He's taking these fights in Romania because his head coach, Crualin Halmajan, is a cut man for the UFC, runs a great camp out of Hamilton, and Kyle Nelson's one of his guys. So him being Romania, he does a lot of work with the RXF organization. That's why Kyle Nelson's getting up there. But this guy does an event out east, I think in Halifax, Infusion Kickboxing. And he brings in Kyle Nelson as a stay busy to take on an actual kickboxer. And said actual kickboxer absolutely annihilated him, knocked him out in the first round. Absolutely. You can go on Fight Network, I cut the recap for it, and just plows this dude. So then it was like, oh, he's not a striker in the slightest bit. But he can strike low-level MMA strikers, which he has. He's not a wrestler. He's not a jiu-jitsu guy. But he can take down wrestlers that are low-level. He can out-grapple guys that are low-level. I've booked 2 of his fights, actually. Substance Cage Combat 1, he fought Neelan Hordat Reese. Widely considered a big robbery. Again, you can watch the fight on YouTube, but it's a long time ago. You're not really going to learn a whole lot from Kyle Nelson from that fight, unless you want to watch it to let me know if you thought it was a robbery or not. But a lot of people thought he lost that fight. Would not give Neelan a rematch. Asked multiple times. Would not. Maybe part of him knew I lost that fight. Did not want to run it back. After that, he, patted his record a little bit. Fought some soft competition here and there. And then Substance Cage Combat 2, I booked him to fight an Olympian, Ainsley Robinson. Ainsley Robinson's 40, but nevertheless represented Canada at the Olympics. And Ainsley Robinson shoots a nasty double straight into a guillotine choke, and he chokes out Ainsley Robinson unconscious. So I like Kyle Nelson. He's a great guy. He's a father from Huntsville. Spent some time in Hamilton, though. Just a good, homely dude. A good, homely dude that's going to get absolutely and utterly decimated in the UFC against 95% of the roster, and unfortunately, he did not draw the 5% he could be. He drew the upper echelon of the division.
An underrated guy who's got some serious wins, man. Jared Gordon that last time, I got blindsided by that. I thought Gordon was going to be able to like march him down and make it, just fight a Jared Gordon fight where he's just like up in his face, making it aggressive, he was able to land. He's able to land the big shot and close him out with a submission.
Yeah,
this guy's super talented.
And to be honest, dude, he did the same thing against Olivier Mercier.
Yep.
It's like, man, I swing heaters standing, and if the fight hits the ground, you've got no shot. And he's able to beat him striking, and when the fight does hit the ground, it's a clinic, dude. It's like, here's a free 15-minute seminar on how to grapple. And when Jared Gordon's like, Jared Gordon's a John Danaher brown belt. He knows how to grapple, but he rocks him standing, gets him down, and absolutely styles on this guy. His losses are to Beneil Dariush and Dustin Poirier. And he's now taking on Kyle Nelson, who's ranked number 5 in Canada at 145 pounds. It's a fight. But
Good on him for taking it. He'll get another fight or 2.
2 more fights. He'll sign a 3-fight deal. He might sign a 4-fight deal, but if you lose your first 3, they'll just take the option to cut you. But he'll get 2 more fights out of this. He's been trying to get in the UFC for 2 years. Like I said, he's got a kid, young son. It might be a daughter. I don't know. But he's got a young child. I got him on Facebook. I don't know. I see the updates. Clearly, this is a huge opportunity. You're not going to pass up. He could have been fighting John Jones. It didn't matter. He was going to take it. He was going to take it. He's going to go in there. He's going to give a solid effort. But I truthfully don't believe he would last 1 round with Jared Gordon. I don't think he'd last 1 round with Olivier Mercier. And you got a guy here that just made those guys look incredibly out of place. He was supposed to fight John Makdessi, which he would have killed. But John Makdessi is showing something. Like, this guy's not all that bad. He gets yanked, and you get Jesse Ronson. Guy is serviceable. He is tough. Striking is unbelievable. Heart for days. Would have been an easier matchup. But, maybe not than Makdessi. But because of the short notice nature of it, definitely. But now you got Kyle Nelson, who's not even in those guys' league, coming up a weight class on extremely short notice. I don't see the path to victory unless Ferreira blows out his knee or the most of luckiest of punches. But I really I don't see it. The fact that it opened up at 475, it's currently sitting on 485. It's going to have to be minus 700 by fight time. It will not be any less than 701 come fight time.
So get on it now.
Because people don't know who Kyle Nelson is. They've yet to sit down and figure it out. And when they do, they're going to hammer Carlos Diego Ferreira. He'll be in all their parlays. He's the first fight on the card. So
by the time this comes out, that line, because that line was relatively new when I put it on, obviously, because the fight was just announced.
That's what I'm saying. It's new, but there's no way it goes off at anything less than 7-1. There's
by the time,
no way.
You know, we said all of these things before we sit down. When we sit back down, or when I go and look at the computer after we're off the air here, we could be looking at a completely different line. So don't be in the comment section and be like, where did you get minus 485? These things, the odds and lines are subject to change, as I said earlier on in the show.
Yeah. If Ferreira loses, I'll shave my beard. And I need this thing because it is cold outside.
I was thinking about us having like beard offs. Like you always have the beard, I don't.
I'd like to see you grow.
We could have like it gets so itchy, it bothers me. It gets really
people
bad.
who use that as an excuse, real soft.
I did a tree planting for all those years up in the woods of Canada.
Yeah.
Like
that was like when Rocky was training in the mountains.
My problem is that my hair grows in really thick, and then I get like these
patchy.
You're a patchy guy, aren't you? When I actually shave it off, it's like I get these like red marks and stuff of like the hairs all like twisting around each other. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Well, just to wrap it up, because I am kind of half all over the place here. It's just there's not a whole lot of value. I'm on almost all of these favorites. Yeah. And a lot of them, I just don't like the price.
It's kind of what happens on these pay-per-view cards because these lines have had time to mature, basically, by the time we sit down. They always get the lines out a little bit earlier for the pay-per-views than they do, your fight night, Buenos Aires or anything like that.
Okay, well, I'll rifle through this, and I'm going to put you on the spot real quick.
Okay.
But I'm going to take Ortega. I'm going to take Valentina Shevchenko. I'm going to take Gunnar Nelson, Hakeem Dawodu, Thiago Santos, Claudia Gadelha, Katlyn Chookagian. God, I can't believe this. Elias Theodorou, Gilbert Burns, Alexander Rakic, Brad Katona, Chad LaPrise, and Carlos Diego Ferreira. Putting Paul Shaughnessy on the spot. Diego Lima, Matthew Lopez, Devin Clark, Jimmy Manuwa, Thiago Santos. Who has got the worst tit?
Diego Lima.
Diego Lima. Okay, fair enough.
It's also the first name that you said, so that's what made me
remember
it the most. But I think it's Diego Lima. We have a history here. There's a long
I'm just saying, on a
trending
card,
history.
I don't want, on a card that has Diego Lima, Matthew Lopez, Devin Clark, Emmanuel, and Santos, I don't want to hear, "Man, the lucky punch." Oh my God, got caught. It's like, buddy, you knew any punch could be a lucky punch.
You know the risks when you're getting involved with a bunch of these guys.
Yeah, they're talented guys, but because they can't take a punch, we're mostly leaning is the other direction.
So me and you will both be at the fights. If you see Cody or I at the event, say hello.
Say what's up.
Say what your name is. Say what your Twitter handle is, because like what people don't realize, like we don't know what most of the people out there look like. Everyone's got their own accounts. They see our fresh faces here every single day. Say hello. We're not meanies. We're pretty normal, level-headed guys.
Yeah, if you do
say hello.
If you do see us and you get a hold of us and you give us your Twitter handle, I'll guarantee you a Twitter shout out.
Yeah.
On the next show.
100%.
So get at us.
I'm looking forward to the fights this weekend. It's really good to be in the actual arena for once. Thank you to Cody Saftic breaking down the fights with me as always, especially for this Canadian card. Thank you to Chad Dow for doing all the sweet work behind the scenes here. For both of those guys, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
That Mayo experience! Experience!